This July, the Democratic Party will be holding its national convention in San Francisco. It's a safe bet that along with the presidential candidates, a man who isn't running for anything will figure prominently in the proceedings. This man, Willie Brown. For those who never heard of Willie Brown, he's probably the most influential black politician holding elective office in the country. His home base is San Francisco, and by title, he is Speaker of the Assembly in the California legislature. When it comes to power, he is second only to the governor. And when it comes to using that power with style, there are those who say Willie Brown is second to none. The floor of the California Assembly is Willie Brown's throne room, and he rules his 80-member court with a firm, sure hand. He is also the unquestioned leader of the 48 Democrats who constitute a majority. And Willie Brown being Willie Brown, this sometimes creates a problem.
As Speaker, I am identified with almost every Democrat who runs for office for the Assembly in the state of California. When you can't make the Democrat in Fresno an issue because of his public posture on whatever he happens to be doing, you then say, if you are his opponent, well, when he gets there, he's going to be beholden to Willie Brown. And he is going to vote the way Willie Brown says he should vote. And you know what Willie Brown is like. He wants everybody to smoke dope. He wants to legalize all kinds of controlled substance. He wants to create more gays. They say all those kinds of things. So I get that heat.
The reason he gets that heat takes a little explaining. Willie Brown's home base is San Francisco, which he has represented for 20 years. It's a city that prides itself on being liberal and open-minded, and the legislation Willie Brown has introduced in the Assembly reflects his constituency. He is best known for one bill that reduced the penalties for using small amounts of marijuana, and for another bill that decriminalized homosexuality.
I wasn't out to win any popularity contest when I championed those issues. I thought they were right. I didn't think you ought to be putting people in jail for doing what the two of them would like to do in private, as long as there was no harm to anybody else. And I certainly think that our laws on controlled substance are just outrageous in terms of some of their penalties. Some of the penalties are greater than for murder.
The Speaker says he's proud of those two bills, but they have made problems in certain quarters.
And when I first started introducing the bill on consenting adults, whenever I was invited to speak at any local black church, invariably when they'd introduce me, they'd almost apologize for my legislative introductions. They'd say, well, you know, in spite of those bills that he seems to introduce or those things that he says, we know he is okay because he's got a wife and 3 children.
Hey, JJ!
From the moment he arrived on the political scene, Willie Brown established a distinctive presence. As he sees it, being highly visible is part of the formula for success in politics, especially politics in California.
You really have to have more than just a good heart. You have to have more than just brains. You also have to have some style. You're competing with Frank Sinatra. You're competing with Richard Pryor. You're competing with Clint Eastwood. You're competing with some real heavyweights, both in and outside of the field of politics. California is a media state. California is an image state. California is where it happens. You really have to project something.
One way Willie Brown projects something is by the way he dresses, and his best friend is the man at whose store he buys his clothes, Wilkes Bashford.
If I was involved in politics, as he is in clothes, I'd probably run for public office and win. Willie knows so much about clothes that certainly is one of the bonds of our friendship.
The Speaker used to be referred to as flamboyant, but these days, as the Los Angeles Times put it, he is more into refinement. His particular passion is for Brioni suits, imported from Italy.
The rumor is that Willie Brown's body rejects anything other than a Brioni, and I think it's very likely true. They happen to fit him very well. He wears them with confidence, and it's kind of become his sartorial trademark.
Brioni suits are an expensive trademark. They sell for around $1,500 each. And according to Wilkes Bashford, the Speaker buys 15 to 20 of them every year. You've said that you view yourself as a kind of piece of living art for the delight of the people that you serve. Have you succeeded in your creation?
I really don't want to have the arrogance of jesting that I am a living piece of art, but in the context of my emphasis on dressing, I'm really dressing for the kind of image that I want to present. I'm dressing to remove any question about a willingness to listen to what I may have to say. I do that, and I think that does have some art implications.
Willie Brown was a poor boy from a small town in Texas when he arrived in San Francisco over 30 years ago. It's been his city ever since. He lived in the black ghetto area known as the Fillmore. Most of it has been torn down now, but it used to be a lively section of town. When Willie Brown started a law practice there, his clients came from the neighborhood.
There were the people who sold dope and other stuff, and that was what you had in the Fillmore. There were the burglars or the suede shoe artists. There were people always running all kinds of games in this area where I lived. And
most of his business, though, came from prostitutes.
Within a short period of time, I guess I had the lion's share of all the prostitution business practiced primarily by black women in San Francisco. And if you didn't let him go to jail, you became a legend very quickly among all of the people on the streets. And if you got busted, they'd say, hey, man, see my lawyer, see Willie Brown. Willie Brown's my lawyer, see Willie Brown. He'll take care of you. And that developed into a fairly decent business, frankly. As a matter of fact, I was still practicing that business when first elected to the California legislature.
That was in 1964, and he has been in the legislature ever since. He still maintains a law practice on the side, which is allowable in California. But nowadays, his clients consist of large corporations and real estate developers. The extra income comes in handy, since his $28,000 a year legislative salary is barely enough to keep him in Brioni suits. In California, the Speaker of the Assembly has customarily been a Democrat and a central figure in party politics in the state and even nationally. Willie Brown made his mark in the party long before he became Speaker. In 1972, at the Democratic National Convention in Miami, Willie Brown was co-chairman of the California delegation supporting George McGovern. People still talk about the speech he made when there was a fight with the Humphrey forces over credentials.
Seat my delegation. I did it for you in Mississippi in 64, in Georgia in 68, and it's now California in 72. I deserve no less. Give me back my delegation.
As his power has grown, Willie Brown's style has become less strident and more polished.
Clearly, Mr. Conyu is motivated to get off the streets irresponsible individuals driving automobiles. This measure does not do that.
As Speaker, he is businesslike, and he clearly knows his business.
In its present condition and in its present form, the intentions are well, but it is terribly flawed, and you don't want your name and your re-election effort connected with anything of this lack of quality. I would urge you, Mr. Conyu, to follow the course of action I've recommended.
He will say exactly what's on his mind. He'll say it, no matter if 100 people thinks it's unacceptable. And the amazing thing about all of that is, that's why he's liked so much.
Maxine Waters is the Assembly Whip and a Willie Brown enthusiast. In the California Assembly, the office of Speaker is invested with a great deal of power. It's not a bad idea to be a Willie Brown enthusiast.
The Speaker decides who will chair the committees, could absolutely decide where bills are going to go, which committee, absolutely decides how much staff you're going to have, whether or not you have a one-room office or a six-room office, and all that goes along with that. And so it's a very powerful position.
Willie Brown takes a benign view of the way he uses his power. He feels the key to his effectiveness is not in throwing his weight around, but in working informally on a one-to-one basis, developing relationships, cracking jokes, brokering deals, working behind the scenes.
The real power is in the power of persuasion, in the power of being able to get 41 or more people to go in a direction you would have them go without you ever having to surface or without you having to appear to have exercised any of the enormous amount of power that is statutorily or constitutionally provided to the Speaker.
We asked Assemblyman Pat Nolan, a conservative Republican, what he thinks of Democrat Willie Brown.
He's well dressed.
Oh, that's certainly true.
He's committed to a very liberal ideology. He's very, very smart, and so I've enjoyed doing combat with him over ideological issues. He's as committed to his view as I am to the other side.
Over the years, Willie Brown has succeeded in doing what very few blacks have done. He has not only become part of the establishment, he is the establishment in the legislature and the Democratic Party of the country's most populous state. As a political leader, he has learned the value of pragmatism, of balancing ideals against realities. He recognized, for example, that an emphasis on busing was losing elections, so he urged soft pedaling it as a campaign issue.
No, it was worse than that. I said, don't touch it. Don't soft pedal it. I mean, just don't touch it. I was sick and tired of black politicians throughout the nation not ever being able to be judged by the normal things by which politicians ought to be judged, even if they're black politicians, because the issue would become busing and the threat of busing. The other candidate could be the worst piece of garbage that's ever presented his candidacy anywhere to anybody, but the issue being busing, we never got to describe that piece of garbage. We were always spending so much time defending, and I just decided that is crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Although Willie Brown's style is to seek accommodations, he has had his problems with the present governor of California, Republican George Deukmejian, especially in trying to negotiate the state budget. Years ago, though, when Brown was chairman of the Assembly's Ways and Means Committee, he found he could do business with an earlier Republican governor, Ronald Reagan.
I was the author of the governor's budget, for Reagan's budget, for 4 years. I handled many negotiations with Ronald Reagan, very successful negotiations, because above all else, Ronald Reagan was a pragmatist. I mean, a pragmatist of the first order.
I think, though, during that period, you at one point called him a phony, and at another point said he was idiotic. Is that right?
Oh, let me tell you something. At any given point in my political life, all of my political opponents have been the recipient of some colorful phrases turned for the purpose of whatever seemed to be appropriate at that moment.
After 20 years, politics seems as natural to Willie Brown as breathing. No one doubts his ability to master the complicated issues that confront the legislature. What you hear is that he is not a black politician, but a politician who is also black. Either way, he's aware that he carries a large responsibility.
There have been one event after another where blacks on the rise in the political arena who could have eventually been real significant persons participating in the American political scene, even though they were black, for one reason or another, their careers have been aborted or terminated or shortened in some manner by the hint of the tinge of scandal legitimately. I don't want that to be the fate of Willie Brown. The whole question of being a black symbol, I do understand that responsibility.
He's the possessor of the fastest quip in the West. He single-handedly has made the Assembly more fashion conscious. And while I have no idea what he's going to say, I'm sure it'll make tomorrow's headlines. Speaker Willie Brown.
You sometimes seem to get a kick out of making statements that irritate people. I think he recently called the present governor of California a horse's rear end, or maybe even more specific.
When I say these things, I'd like to snatch him back sometimes, but within a week, the only shelf life is the name Willie Brown, not the governor's description. And that's in his business, that's all that counts.
One of the political realities of the new Republican majority in Congress is not a single congressional committee is likely to be chaired by an African American. By contrast, the African American who's been the California State Assembly Speaker for 14 years has beaten the longest odds yet and foiled opponents who thought they'd seen the last of Willie Brown. Correspondent Reed Galen reports.
House will please be in order.
Over 14 years as Speaker of the California Assembly, Willie Brown has twisted a lot of arms.
Don't blow the deal.
Spoken plainly.
I don't develop stress as a result of knowing I can't be elected governor and the most incompetent asshole out there, kid, who happens to be white.
And made a lot of enemies. He's proud of every one of them.
Republicans have made Willie Brown the hate object. I am the poster boy of what they would like to get rid of.
But Brown always survived. Until this year, it appeared the Republicans finally had just enough members to topple him.
You can put that in the bank.
But the man they call Slick Willie had one more trick up the sleeve of his Armani jacket, the vote of a Republican assemblyman that Brown had cultivated for years, resulting in a tie with the challenger. Republicans railed against the defector.
Unfortunately, we had one political whore today, and it had to be a Republican.
Now Brown is challenging the eligibility of another assemblyman, a Republican, who is about to move into another job. Eliminating his vote would leave Brown again on top.
I think he's gotten out of more boxes and more scrapes than Houdini ever thought about.
He has survived challenges from the opposition and from within his own party. He's weathered changing political winds and an FBI probe. He responded to that by taking a movie role in Godfather 3, playing a corrupt politician.
And we need your help.
Brown will prevail again, he says, because he's more experienced and just smarter than his opponents.
Mr. Speaker, there's also that legendary modesty.
Somebody the other day said I give modesty a bad name.
Reed Galen, CBS News, Sacramento.
Why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Sure you don't really mean that, Lois?